When I was about 7 or 8 years old, my dad gave me found a milk crate, and he put it by the broiler. And he was going to have me feed the broiler during noon hours. One of the most important jobs, I think, in the whole kitchen. I was just so excited to do this. And during noon hours, I would be the guy that was putting the patties in the top of the broiler, and they would, bake on through, and the buns down below. And one of the key things about feeding the broiler was salting the patties. And my dad would teach me that over and over again, how to salt those patties just perfectly. He'd come by and he'd take the salt shaker out of my hand again. Now, I want you to shake it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Consistency. We want all the salt on the patties the same way, each patty. And I'd have to keep up with putting the buns in, putting the patties in, and pulling the patties out of the little freezer. I loved it. I absolutely loved being down at the A&W and being a part of the operation. It was great. When I got a little older, we had bought a restaurant in McMinnville, and my brother and I, we spent a lot of time working over there. And one of my key jobs for my dad was baking onion rings. And it was the whole process of making an onion rings. I'd have to peel the onions, I'd have to slice the onions and cry, and then I'd have to take all the onion rings and dip them into the batter and put them into this kind of converted donut making machine that had this oil trough, and I'd have to put them in there 2 by 2, 2 onion rings, one beside each other, and each track had to have 2 onion rings. And so you had to keep up with this whole process of making the onion rings and getting the batter and doing all this stuff and keep the tracks going and then take them off the end. Well, inevitably, my dad would walk by when I missed a track, or I had just like one in the track, and he'd walk by, or heaven forbid I missed the whole track altogether. It was great, because he would just have perfect timing. Every time I missed a track, he'd walk by and, got to keep up. He was all about speed and productivity, but I loved making onion rings. I made a ton of them. I remember just sitting there looking through the drive-thru at the fireworks going off with my brother. We're both just sitting there going, well, why are we here? What are we doing? Why are we working on 4th of July? Oh, it was great. Great memories of working hard at the restaurants. I learned a lot from my dad in business, especially in the Figaro's Pizza chain, where I really, I'd come back from college and went right to work with my dad. And, I had opinions about the way things should go. And he'd say to me, just hide and watch. Just hide and watch. I was like, come on. Why are you doing this? Well, why are you treating these, franchisees with kid gloves? I'd say all kinds of dumb things. And just hide and watch. And I'm telling you, he was right. Because he knew, because he had been a franchisee, an A&W franchisee years before that, and he knew how to treat franchisees. He knew how to give them the respect that they deserve as business owners. He knew how to bring them along with ideas. He knew how to take care of the business as a whole. And I did hide and watch. I probably didn't keep my mouth shut all the time, but I learned a ton from my dad. My dad always had a saying, a job worth doing is a job worth doing right. And let me just tell you, he said that all the time. He not only said it, he had a plaque behind his office desk on the wall in every office that he had. A job worth doing is a job worth doing right. And I'm telling you, that was my dad. And that's what he ingrained in us. A job worth doing is a job worth doing right. That really, in my opinion, sums up my dad in all of his businesses. The other thing about my dad, he was able to walk into a meeting, and he had this kind of commanding presence, but he wasn't like this dictator or, really, do this, do that in a meeting. He always was able to just kind of work the meeting, whether it be all the Figaro's franchisees at the table or whatever meeting we were in. he just would slip in a word here or there, and people would kind of come around to his way of thinking. The other thing I remember about my family growing up, my dad probably is the reason why I'm into electronics, because he was, in my opinion, a gadget man, because he enjoyed buying kind of the latest and greatest. We had, when satellite TV came out, we bought one of those big, huge satellites and put it in our backyard, and I loved it. You know, it was like, I remember tuning in to him setting up the satellite, and we got the box inside and fired the TV up, and just to think that we were connected to some satellite off there in space and bringing in a TV station right into our living room. Technology was a big influence on me, and I blame my dad for that. The other thing that my dad and mom bought, I think it was my mom actually bought it for him for his birthday, was a video camera. And we're not talking no little thing here. We're talking the big sucker on the shoulder, and packing the big VCR thing down here and connecting the two and trying to lug this thing around and shoot some video stuff. Probably, you know, also had a great influence on what got me into being a filmmaker, is those early days of playing around with video cameras back then. I loved it. I loved technology, and I loved that we were always kind of buying the new fun little toys that I got to play with. I snuggled a lot with my mom. She was very loving, and be honest with you, it was probably my favorite thing to do, was to snuggle with my mom on the couch, watch TV, and just hang out. You just felt so, I don't know, connected and loved, and I loved it. I loved being with my mom. You're never in doubt that they love you, always. I don't remember back, I was headed off to college shortly, and during those times I was headed down to LA area. During those times there was a bunch of freeway shootings going on from road rage, this new thing supposedly in kind of really hot in the LA area. And so I'm driving down the road in Salem with my mom in the car, and I get mad. This guy cuts me off, and I yell at him out the window. And anyway, my mom comes home and tells my dad, you know, this little story, and they're connecting this to the LA road rage, and that, you know, their son's going to go off to LA and mouth off to somebody, and, you know, going to pull a gun on him. And I remember my dad, you know, talking to me, and I probably said something back to him, you know, and he got pretty angry at me. And when my dad got angry, he never really laid a hand on us, like in any physical way usually. And in that time, he grabbed me by the shirt, and he was like shaking me, trying to shake some sense into me, you know. And my shirt even ripped, and he got so angry. He was like, "Don't you understand? You can't just mouth off to people, you know. So you're gonna get shot in the head." And he just, you know, kind of pushed me, and my shirt ripped, and you know, I'm crying, and he walks out of my room, and I'm sitting there going, "God, what is wrong with that guy?" You know, and minutes later, he walks back into my room, and he's crying, and he says, "You know, I love you. I don't want you to go off to LA." And something happened, and you know, I was angry at first, and then I see him like that. I'm like, oh man, you know, that just his real love and real care for me, you know, came through loud and clear. No matter what the situation, she loves us. No matter what we've done, she loves us. how do you beat that? You know, how do you beat a mom that's always there, that would do anything for you, and that loves you nonstop? I learned a couple things from him. One would be this expression and sound effect, and that is he did that all the time growing up, you know, in probably perfect timing, you know. So I learned that from him, and I also learned another sound effect from him that I think he patented, and that would be, let me see if I can do it right. He used to always do that too. I don't know why, but you know, that's my dad. What a true grandmother she is. She is always bending over backwards to do something for the kids, and it's amazing. She treats them all fairly. She loves them. She honestly loves to spend time with them and do the things that they love to do. You know, my son loves to cook, and so he'll come over and he'll, you know, make a disaster out of her kitchen, and they'll have a blast cooking together. My daughter loves to shop. She'll take my daughter shopping. What a great grandmother. You know, this project of doing this short film about my parents' life has has just opened my eyes to what a great story it really is. They've been so real. They've been so open and honest, and it's really because that's who they are. I mean, they're just real people. It's hard because I've already watched my brother and my sister answer this question: what do you want to say to your parents? And I think they both said something down the lines of, thank you. And amazingly, that's kind of what I want to say. You're so thankful. I'm so thankful for their love and their support and their just continual dedication to each other. Being married 50 years is the best thing you can do for your kids. I mean, how does it get any better than that? My parents love each other. They love to spend time with each other all the time. They know how to recover from difficulties. Continually, they just strive to love each other. I really love my parents' relationship, and I would, just like my brother and sister, say, thank you. Thank you for loving us and giving us such an incredible example of dedication and commitment and real, true love. Thank you.